Happy Wednesday, Mount members and friends. Thank you for joining for our Bible study here in virtual land at the Six Mount Zion Baptist Church. If you're watching us on Wednesday live at noon or 6:30, I'm going to ask that you help us to spread the word. Invite your family, friends, co-workers, neighbors to join us on this journey. We are on Facebook. We're on YouTube. We're on Twitter, even on Dialpad Meetings. They can even just call in to listen. That's 804-203-9011. All right, let's get started. This is lesson 7. This is the final one in the I Am Bible study, where we are focused on the different ways that Jesus describes Jesus himself in the gospel according to John. Those 7 sayings are: 1, I am the bread of life. 2, I am the light of the world. 3, I am the gate or the door. 4, I am the good shepherd. 5, I am the resurrection and the life. 6, I am the way, the truth, and the life. And today we're going to examine what Jesus' seventh I am saying is: I am the true vine. And what it meant then and what it means to us even now. All right, we're going to start by listening to the context of this I am saying, which is found in the 15th chapter of the Gospel according to John.
I am the true vine, and my Father is the gardener. He cuts off every branch in me that bears no fruit, while every branch that does bear fruit, he prunes so that it will be even more fruitful. You are already clean because of the word I've spoken to you. Remain in me, as I also remain in you. No branch can bear fruit by itself. It must remain in the vine. Neither can you bear fruit unless you remain in me. I am the vine. You are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. If you do not remain in me, you are like a branch that is thrown away and withers. Such branches are picked up, thrown into the fire, and burned. If you remain in me and my words remain in you, ask whatever you wish, and it will be done for you. This is to my Father's glory, that you bear much fruit, showing yourselves to be my disciples. As the Father has loved me, so have I loved you. Now remain in my love. If you keep my commands, you will remain in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commands and remain in his love. I have told you this so that my joy may be in you, and that your joy may be complete. My command is this: love each other as I have loved you. Greater love has no one than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. You are my friends if you do what I command. I no longer call you servants, because servants do not know their master's business. Instead, I have called you friends. For everything that I learned from my Father, I have made known to you. You did not choose me, but I chose you and appointed you, so that you might go and bear fruit, fruit that will last, and so that whatever you ask in my name, the Father will give you. This is my command: love each other.
Yes. Dr. Marvin McMickle opens the chapter talking about plants, a subject that some of you may be able to relate to. He begins with a discussion of the 2 types of flowers you may have in your garden or your flower pot. All kinds of flowers are annual, such as geraniums, petunias, begonias, and marigolds. They all look good, and they add to your home's outdoor landscape or to the beauty of one of the rooms in your home, as long as those flowers remain planted in the earth or remain sitting within their roots inside a pot that sits on your porch or your patio. Annual flowers will last all summer long. The other type of flower, though, is a perennial. Many of these flowers grow on bushes. As the bush reawakens after the winter months, the bush's buds slowly will come in. Now, the most popular of these perennials are roses. They will repeat this cycle every year. As long as they remain tied to the bush, they will return year after year. Dr. McMickle speaks about his green thumb and some conclusions that he's made about both flowers and plants. Listen.
No matter how beautiful those flowers may look while planted in the ground or attached to the bush, the moment the flower is cut and removed from the stem through which it receives its life-giving strength, those flowers begin to die. Reverend Dr. Gardner C. Taylor once said, "Cut flowers may look good, but they don't last long. I have seen their annual buds and blossoms, and I have watched them stand up to the heat, wind, and rain for 7 or 8 months of the year. Even when a perennial's blossoms are killed off by a harsh winter, they have it within themselves to rejuvenate and return just as beautiful and fragrant as they were the previous year. However, when those flowers are removed from the bush and separated from that which gives them life, they cannot live on their own. Cut flowers look good, but they don't last long. When a cut flower dies, you may want to pour the water out of the vase and keep dried flowers in your house. Some people may take cut flowers that have died and press the blossom inside the pages of a book. You do not have to throw away your cut flowers after they die, but that does not change the fact that cut flowers look good but do not last long."
Now, because this is Bible study, I'm sure you already know that I'm talking about plants, but this principle does not apply only to flowers. This principle also relates to the human soul. So as long as you and I can remain connected to our spiritual source, we have moral, emotional, and spiritual strength that we need to navigate through this world. As long as we remain attached to, in touch with, and under the direct influence of our source of life, we remain fully alive. However, when we allow ourselves to get cut off from the spiritual resource that feeds our souls, we fall victim to the Dr. Gardner Taylor principle. Cut flowers look good, but they don't last long. Therefore, it is of the utmost importance that we remain tightly connected to the spiritual sources that feed our souls. This seventh I am saying reminds us of what that spiritual resource is and what that resource can do for us. In John 15, Jesus says, "I am the true vine and you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. But apart from me, you can do nothing." Hear the word that Jesus used to describe the spiritual relationship he wants to have with us. Remain in me. 3 times in verse 6 and again in verses 5, 6, and 7, Jesus encourages his disciples to remain in him. Any word directly from the mouth of Jesus and repeated that often in a short passage like this may carry immense importance. Remain in me. Jesus could have used other words. He could have said, if you visit occasionally. He could have said, if you attend church every now and then. He could have said, if you watch 6 Mount Zion on YouTube when there's nothing else of more importance for you to do. However, Jesus did not say any of that. Jesus said that if you want the power and the strength from and through him, we must remain in him. Now, the King James Version uses the far more familiar term in this passage, saying, if you abide in me, and my word abides in you, then you will bear much fruit. Other translations use the phrase live in me, dwell in me, stay united with me, stay joined to me. Get your life from me, you must be in me. Now, notice, Jesus does not say, quote unquote, associate with me, suggesting occasional contact. No, it does not say if you affiliate with me, which suggests some loose form of membership without any responsibilities. He said, if you abide with me. Now, in other words, if you remain with me, live with me, stay connected to me, dwell with me, and are in constant contact with me throughout the day and the year, you will receive all the blessings that heaven can provide. Let's consider these words more carefully. The Greek word used here means more than simply remaining in one place. It connotes remaining in a state of expectancy, endurance, and perseverance. When we remain or abide in the vine, we do so with the expectation that something of great value will be provided. We also do so with the determination to endure whatever hardship, whatever challenges seek to disrupt our relationship with the vine. None of this works, however, if you have been separated from the life-giving power of the vine. The problem for many Christians is that they have been separated from the vine, like the cut flower Dr. Gardner C. Taylor talked about. Church-going members disconnected from the true vine may get dressed up on Sunday, quote some scripture, they can sing all the right songs, they go through all the right motions. They may have a different or certain amount of knowledge about God, but they do not closely abide with God. They do not maintain their relationship with God through prayer, through Bible study, through service for their neighbor, or generously offer some time, special gifts, or finances to the work of the church or other charitable causes. Those are the things we need to do if we are trying to remain with, abide with, dwell with, be connected with the vine. From this text, we must notice that if we remain in Jesus and in Jesus' words, we will bear much fruit. Just like the perennial plants and perennial flowers, the fruit of the Spirit will flow freely from us when we are tied to the true vine. As a reminder to Mount members, the fruit of the Spirit are listed in Galatians 5:22-23. Hopefully, that has not gotten out of your spirit after we spent 40 days with it during our journey toward resurrection. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. How different our world would look, how differently people would behave if they had an abundant supply of the fruit of the Spirit. We can have all these things in our life. We can bear or possess all these spiritual attributes if we remain attached to the true vine. Notice, Jesus says that those connected to him, the true vine, they'll bear much fruit. We do not have to work hard to bear good fruit. We do not need to know any magic words, purchase any anointed prayer cloths, or, quote, sow a seed into somebody's TV ministry. If we are truly tied to the vine, then those fruit will come forth automatically and independently. It is like the difference between voluntary and involuntary actions. A voluntary action is something that we choose to do on our own. I choose to get out of bed. I choose to eat breakfast, lunch, dinner. I choose to watch certain things at certain times. These actions are entirely under my control. I choose to wear a certain item of clothing, a certain shirt, certain tie. I choose to engage in certain projects around the house or watch this worship service or call in for Bible study through our dial pad meetings, conferences. All of these are voluntary actions. On the other hand, some things are going on with us that are involuntary actions. I'm not choosing or deciding what time to do them. They are operating involuntarily. My heart is pumping blood throughout my body involuntarily. My lungs are inhaling and exhaling so that I can breathe involuntarily. My brain waves are firing. My eyes are observing the world around me. These things allow me to live and my body to function. Life is impossible without these involuntary actions. In the 3rd century CE, an African bishop named Origen of Alexandria wrote in his first book on first principles, quote, with sustained effort and commitment, a person can move from will to nature, unquote. That is, a person can stop trying to do something because they want to do it. And what they should be doing just flows naturally and effortlessly from their lives. For example, an apple tree doesn't strain to produce its apples. Just as importantly, an apple tree will never produce peaches, pears, or oranges. An apple tree will only bear what was natural for it with no effort or extra energy, an involuntary action that takes place year to year. Sadly, there are some voluntary actions that we could and should choose not to do, but they're still prevalent in our world. Take any form of bigotry that you can name: racism, sexism, homophobia, xenophobia, or the hatred of strangers and foreigners. None of these things come naturally to any of us. We're not born knowing how to hate somebody or to treat somebody unkindly. We learn those things from the world around us. We learn those things from somebody in our family or someone at school or someone on TV or someone in politics or government. W.E.B. Du Bois visited Germany during the rise of the Nazis in 1936, when laws impacting the lives of Jews in Germany were being enacted. He wrote in a letter to friends in New York City that hatred of Jews seemed to be instinctive. It seemed to him that levels of bigotry and hatred were inbred, natural, and even unavoidable. It was instinctive, he said. Of course, hatred and bigotry are not instinctive. They result from instruction. It's not a natural response. It is learned, mimicked, and acquired by observing others. The hatred of Jews was taught to them through the constant Nazi propaganda. The best antidote to falling victim to lessons of prejudice, hatred, and bigotry so visible in our world today is to remain tied to the vine, so that the things that flow through us involuntarily benefit us and benefit the world. We love one another, including the ones we are being encouraged to hate, or at least to marginalize. And we do so without effort. We have joy without working to do so. This comes naturally when we are tied to the true God. The next thing to notice in this I am passage is that part of having God as your spiritual gardener is now and then, every now and then, God may start doing some pruning in your life. Jesus says in this passage that God prunes every branch that is already bearing fruit so that it might bear even more fruit. God may see some things you do or some people around you that need to be cut off, some folk that need to be cast away. Sometimes God must prune us a bit. Pruning involves trimming away dead or dying leaves. God knows that all of us need some pruning in our lives. We've been living with some deadly and dangerous behaviors and beliefs for a long time. Let God do some pruning in your life. We've been hanging on to some people who are nothing more than excess baggage, who are going nowhere, and who want to take you along on their journey to nowhere. Let God do some pruning in your life. Now, I want to share this powerful testimony that Dr. Marvin McMichael, shares in his book.
Plants and trees grow better and bear more fruit when they are occasionally pruned. The same is true for you and me. A little pruning is good for the soul and the spirit. But what happens when the pruning that God allows involves parts of our human body? What happens when sickness comes and the only way to cure what is wrong is to prune away, remove, and cut away the infected parts so the rest of the body can live? God is a good gardener, even in the hospital operating room. Those of us who have had cancer surgeries know about God as the gardener who prunes so he can preserve. God may prune away a man's prostate gland or a woman's breast or ovaries. God may prune away a toe, a foot, or a leg to save your life from the ravages of diabetes. Let me tell you what I could only have learned on the other side of sickness, surgery, and suffering. I have had cancer surgery. I have been treated for a rare blood disorder. I have been in the ICU on 2 separate occasions for 8 days each time. I was connected to a breathing machine with tubes down my throat and wires connected to places all over my body. At points along the way, I was unsure I would leave the hospital alive. However, I had one thing going for me. I was tied to the true vine. I have had pericarditis, which is fluid buildup around the heart. I have had a pleural effusion, which is water around the lungs. Each one of these episodes left me certain that my life was ending. If that had been the case and my life had ended because of one of those conditions, I would not have been anxious. I made reservations for a house not made with human hands a long time ago. I am committed to the principle in Romans chapter 14, verses 7 and 8, which says, "For none of us lives to himself alone, and none of us dies to himself alone. If we live to the Lord, and if we die to the Lord. So, whether we live or die, we belong to the Lord." Being tied to the true vine does not mean you will never get sick, nor does it mean that you will not suffer. Being tied to the true vine means that the life-giving power will hold, keep, and sustain you while you pass through those challenging times of pruning. And the vine will be what you can hold on to when nobody else is around, and nothing else can be done.
As we come to the end of this series, let me share this. The Sistine Chapel ceiling inside the Vatican has a fresco painted by Michelangelo. This painting shows the hand of God reaching out toward the hand of Adam. The image's meaning is clear. God is always reaching out to us. And all we must do is reach out to God so divine power can flow into us and through us day by day. Now, I want you to consider a second image called He Ain't Heavy by Gilbert Young. This painting shows an image of one hand reaching down and one hand reaching up. The hands are not touched yet, but when they do, the hand reaching down will support and sustain the person reaching upward. Now, for those of you who are watching this, you see it because it's on the screen. Those of you who are just listening, you have to look that up. Take either image you prefer, but see what they have in common. We don't have to go through life by ourselves. We don't have to go through life on our own. We need a helping hand to carry us through. Now, Jesus is offering himself as that hand that can hold us. Jesus is that vine that can sustain us. He is the bread that feeds us, the shepherd that guides us, the light that helps us see more clearly. The resurrection that cancels the power of death, the way that leads us into God's presence, and the true vine that holds us if we remain, abide, and dwell with him. The question for this after Bible study chat is, what does it mean to you to remain in the vine? What does it mean to you to remain in the vine? How do you live that out on a regular basis? How do you live that out? What does it mean to you to remain in the vine? And how do you live it out in your daily life? Before we go, let me invite you to our prayer calls Tuesday and Thursday. We do have one tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. You can call 804-203-9011. All right. If you or someone you know is in need of groceries, our food pantry is open on Fridays from 12 to 1 p.m. Mass choir, you're back up. You have rehearsal on Saturday at 10:30 a.m. Church school starts at 9:30. We've got classes for everybody. And then we'll worship together at 10:45. It is Pentecost Sunday, which is the day we commemorate the Holy Spirit falling on the followers of the way. And it is remembered as the birth of the church. All right, it's time to head on over to After Bible Study Chat. You can get there 3 ways. Download the Dialpad Meetings app or go to meetings.dialpad.com/SMZBC or simply call 804-203-9011.